Back when I was a starry-eyed 10-year-old, if you had asked me the classic question, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer would have been rocket scientist. Let's just say I was a little bit precocious. Apollo 13 was my favorite movie. The Lego space shuttle set was all I wanted for Hanukkah, and dreams of exploring the cosmos had captured my imagination. So when I listened to a podcast last week about the upcoming launch of NASA's Webb Space Telescope, I found myself once again filled with that childhood wonder. The Webb will succeed the Hubble Space Telescope. And during its 31 years of service, the Hubble has produced some of the most jaw-dropping images ever seen by human eyes. The Pillars of Creation, the Orion and Lagoon nebulas. Amazingly, the Webb will be 100 times more powerful than its predecessor. That's because while the Hubble is the size of a school bus, the Webb is as big as a tennis court. Furthermore, while the Hubble orbits a mere 340 miles above the Earth, the Webb will sail through space nearly 1 million miles away from us. That is 4 times the distance to the moon. The Webb will allow astronomers to see right up to the edge of the observable universe, almost 14 billion years into the past, to the miraculous moments when the first stars began to glow. One could say the Webb will let us catch God in the act of let there be light. But that's the JV rocket scientist in me talking, and that's last week's Torah portion. The rabbi in me is thinking about this week's Torah portion. Parshat Noach is most famous for its infamous flood. But in a 9-verse vignette after the great deluge, we find the almost as notorious story as of the Tower of Babel. All of humanity has gathered in a single city. Everyone speaks the same language. And in an act of cooperation on infrastructure spending that would have shocked the United States Congress, the people resolve, Hava nivne lanu ir, come, let us build ourselves a city, umigdal v'rosho v'shamayim, and a tower with its top in the heavens, v'naseh lanu shem, and we will make a name for ourselves. Needless to say, this being Genesis, God is displeased. And so God puts an end to this most epic of building projects by scattering humanity across the globe and by making everyone take on a different tongue. This week, I've been wondering how the Webb is different from the Tower of Babel. Putting a really big thing really high in the sky? Check. International cooperation. NASA partnered on the Webb with the European Space Agency and with Canada, so check. And it has been said that science is humanity's one universal language. Check. This is the part where everyone says, uh-oh. But worry not. I am here to reassure you that the Webb will not provoke God's wrath. It's certainly possible to interpret the story of Babel as a cautionary tale against technological overreach. But the great 20th century Bible scholar Nehemiah Leibowitz offers a different reading. According to Leibowitz, The sin of Babel hinges on the last three words of their statement of intent. V'na'aseh lanu shem, and we will make a name for ourselves. She writes that the story of Babel comes to warn us that humans build awe-inspiring monuments with their technical skill to make them forget their insignificance and transience, to delude themselves with greatness and immortality. In short, to make a name for themselves. Thus, the transgression of the tower builders was not the act of building itself, but rather their egomaniacal aims. Now, if NASA were launching the web just to put the NASA logo on a floating tennis court 1,000,000 miles away, then Houston, we'd have a problem. But that's not what's happening. Instead, any scientist from around the world can apply to use this brand new telescope for their research. These astronomers will search for habitable exoplanets around distant stars and the birth of galaxies and so much more. Their goal is not vanity, but discovery. Interestingly, our Jewish tradition doesn't just approve of astronomical research. It actually commands it. The Talmud tells us that anyone who knows how to calculate the astronomical seasons and the movement of the constellations and does not do so, about such people, a verse from Isaiah says, they do not take notice of the work of God. Taking it a step farther, Rabbi Yochanan asserts that it is a mitzvah to study astronomy, for it proves the wisdom and understanding of the Jewish people in the eyes of other nations. Our sages agree. Science is a fundamental way we appreciate God's handiwork. And it's the one language that everyone can speak. Maimonides writes that whenever one contemplates the great wonders of God's works and creations and sees that they are a product of a wisdom that has no bounds or limits, one will immediately love God and feel an immense passion to know Hashem Hagadol, the great name. Maimonides gets it right. Science isn't about making a name for ourselves like the builders of the Tower of Babel. It's about finding all of the little places God has hidden the divine signature throughout creation. God willing, on December 18th of this year, the web will launch without a hitch. And instead of piercing the heavens and flying in the face of God, the web's miraculous technology and the brilliant astronomers who wield it will help us grow to love our Creator just a little bit more. God only knows what brilliant discoveries are in store for us. Shabbat Shalom.